Hello there. After an explosive start to the Football League, today saw the 5th round of matches as we begin to see who might the favourites be and who might just struggle. Well, talking of favourites, Steve Claridge joins me again to give us his take on today's games, whilst Lizzie Greenwood-Hughes is standing by to hear your reactions to today's events. Lizzie.
Yes, we want to hear your stories. If you were at the City Ground today, what did you make of the whole Forest Derby scrap? Or maybe you're a Barnsley or a Colchester United fan. And if so, which manager would you like to replace the empty space that you have at the moment? Perhaps you've got a question for Steve and Manish, or perhaps you just want to get something off your chest. Whatever it is, you can text us on 81111 or send us an email to footballleague@bbc.co.uk. Whatever you've got to say, get in touch. If it's good, I might just read it out.
OK, thanks, Lizzie. Here's what's coming up tonight. The name's Clough, Brian Clough, and however you look at it, it's still the name that means the most to the fans of Nottingham Forest and Derby County. But it's Nigel who takes his Derby team to a Forest side yet to win this season. Sadly, the talking points weren't just about a terrific game of football.
I'm Mark Clemmit at the Western Homes Community Stadium, where the challenge facing managerless Colchester was how to see off in-form Leeds. Mind you, they do have previous.
Simmons and Reedy, and it's there!
There's also news of the second managerial casualty of the season. Plus, the only team in the Football League without a point have something to celebrate tonight. Well, Nottingham Forest and Derby have met 22 times in the Coca-Cola Football League, and there's nothing between them, with the East Midland rivals having won 8 apiece and drawn 6. Well, would today's match be just as tight? Steve Olsen was at the City Ground.
17 miles separate the two cities of Nottingham and Derby. Nottingham Forest, under former Derby boss Billy Davis, are without a league win so far this season. Dexter Blackstock is preferred to Robert Earnshaw up front. Joe Garner gets the nod ahead of Paul Anderson on the right side of their midfield. For Derby County, well, Nigel Clough picking the team. He used to sit alongside his dad in the home dugout here, of course. Today he manages Derby from the away dugout. Chris Commons, like Clough Jr., is a former Forest striker. Rob Hulse replaces the injured Steve Davis up front for them. So it's Derby County in white and black from right to left against Nottingham Forest, hoping to pick up their first 3 points of the season. Early touch for Stephen Bywater in the Derby County goal. Aimed towards Rob Hulse, Teal running in behind, but Lee Camp gets his first touch. Savage got his head on it. Jake Buxton climbing for Derby. A little bit of room for the cross into the penalty area, which was only half down with. Oh, and Forrester in front with an absolute belter. Majewski with the goal. Inside the first minute of the game, Radoslav Majewski with the goal. I don't think Bywater even smelt it. Less than a minute played. Look at this strike from the Polish midfielder Radoslav Majewski. Bywater didn't have a prayer. Chris Gunter cut out by Pearson, but no one there in white to take advantage. And driven in left-footed from distance, and not all that far away either by Chris Cohen. Has a decent goal-scoring record, Cohen. Player who can play left back as he is today, or left midfield. Chris Commons with the throw. Well, they haven't picked up Pearson. He got away from McKenna, and he's played it into Gary Teal. Big chance for Derby. Shanked wide by Teal. This is a really great chance here for Gary Teal. Heads in hands as he drags it across the post and wide. Gunter's throw, and the free kick goes against Commons. Garner went over his outstretched foot. There are 5 inside the Derby penalty area for Nottingham Forest. It's taken by Cohen. Very well floated, it's an own goal! Nottingham Forest 2, Derby County 0. Well delivered by Cohen. Not sure if the final touch came off Addison or Hulse, but Nottingham Forest are 2-0 up. Not the kind of return to the City ground that he was looking for. Teal trying to take on Cohen. The cross seemed to hit Cohen's hand and a free kick has been given. It certainly hit his arm. It's hard to say that he meant it, Cohen. In comes the Teal free kick. Hulse with the header off the post. Referee's blown, it's not going to count. Martin Atkinson rules out Rob Hulse's effort. Good delivery, Hulse's header, excellent save by Bywater. You can only think that the referee, Martin Atkinson, has decided that there, Hulse has pushed Morgan. Chris Commons. Derby free kick. If they could go on the score sheet before half-time, Derby, it might yet be a very different game. They had a couple of chances and a goal ruled out. To reflect on, Blackstock, lovely ball, Tyson onside. Can he make it 3? Yes, he can. Absolutely no doubt about who scored that one. Nathan Tyson makes it Nottingham Forest 3, Derby County 0, and it's not yet half-time. Great run by Tyson. Great timing from Blackstock to ensure that he delivered the ball whilst Tyson was still onside as Derby pushed up. He took it round by Water. And Forest lead by 3-0. In by Connolly. The flick came off McKenna's head and Gary Teal settles for a Derby corner. Teal with the corner kick. Heads go up, Buxton down, Addison just beaten to it by Blackstock. Teal again. Losing out. And Cohen with a long clearance downfield. Came off Chambers' head, and it scrapped its way in, and Derby have got one back through Miles Addison. One of the stranger goals that you will ever see. Addison's goal, or is that an own goal? If it is, it's Addison's 3rd of the season. It was his attempt. Deflected on its way past Camp, and Derby have got one back, and they have something to get their teeth into here. As Nigel Clough gazes out from that dugout in the main stand, that's what he sees on the top of the stand on the far side. The Brian Clough stand, his father so synonymous with both these clubs. Looked like handball by Hulse. Nothing given, which surprised a few Forest fans. Here's Croft. Decent ball in, half out by Morgan, Livermore with a shot, and it's gone in! And Derby, 3-0 down at half-time, have turned it round to 3-2. You'd never tell from the expression on Nigel Clough's face, but they're back in this game. Livermore's shot took a deflection off a Forest foot. You could say that Nottingham Forest have scored 2 own goals now. And Billy Davis is worried enough to come down and chat to his assistant. Teal. Oh, good play by Teal. Teal square! Oh, and it was perilously close to being another own goal. Great play by Teal. Lee Croft with a corner kick for Derby. Savage. Croft. And a deflection, and he took it into the path of McGoldrick. And now Cohen getting forward, and Tyson's down the middle. Not quite where Cohen wanted it to go. Can't keep still, can't keep quiet. Can't stay in his technical area. In contrast, Nigel Clough, picture of relative calm. McKenna, Majewski. Trying to turn Savage, free kick Nottingham Forest. Oh my goodness me! Well, Robbie Savage getting involved here with Tyson, but there was an earlier hand into Savage's face, and Martin Atkinson has to be very clear in what he saw there. It did seem to me as though Savage was caught in the face here. This is the clash with Majewski, but it wasn't the pole. It was McCleary, was it? They get up, McCleary comes across, but it's a push on the shoulder, and Savage goes flying. It was ill-advised, to say the least, by Gareth McCleary, who's a little bit lucky that he only gets a yellow card. Robbie Savage made a huge amount of it. Paul Dickoff here. Dickoff trying to take on and get the better of Chambers. It's a decent ball into the box. It's headed away by McCleary, and Derby have a throw. Paul Connolly will take it, and Derby have everyone they can risk in the penalty area here. Connolly with the throw-in, deep into stoppage time. Savage with the flick, up go the hands of goalkeeper Camp. Eight and a half minutes of added time now. And still Martin Atkinson wants more. Forest don't, Derby do, the whistle blows, and Nottingham Forest have beaten Derby County. What an extraordinary day at the City Ground. Nottingham Forest celebrate their first league victory of the season, brought to them in the end by Nathan Tyson's goal just before half-time, which put them 3-0 up. A lead which looked absolutely unassailable, but own goals in the second half from Morgan and McKenna gave Derby hope and set up an extraordinary grandstand finish. And I'm afraid that tempers have boiled over. Right in front of the Derby County fans, there will be here repercussions to both clubs, I would think, for failing to control their players. The police are having to prevent supporters getting involved. Billy Davies sensibly walking away from it. But now there is a melee involving probably 20 players right in front of the Derby County supporters, and police and stewards are having to drag them away. It's a local derby which ends with tempers completely lost.
Well, unsavoury scenes there at the City Ground, which threatens to overshadow what was a terrific game at the end of it. I mean, Steve, you've seen that now a number of times. Yeah. Just try and clear that up for us. What happened at the full-time whistle?
Well, as a player, obviously, I've got a sort of a bird's-eye view of what's happened. Nathan Tyson gets the flag, runs it across in front of the Derby fans, and actually taunts them with it. Now, regardless of what anybody thinks, that isn't just an affront to those fans, but also it's a personal slant on the Derby players, which, you know, with all due respect, Nottingham Forest have just beaten. It's a total and utter lack of respect for everybody involved. And Nathan Tyson, I know Nathan.
You've played with him?
Played with him at Wickham. Now, he's not a bad lad, but that, with regard to the sense of timing and what he's done, considering what's happened this week, is incredibly stupid.
It's the last thing the game needed after
Absolutely.
a pretty turbulent week. The game itself, though, was... Well, Nottingham Forest won it at the end, didn't they?
Yes, let's talk about the good things, and this was certainly one of them. Fantastic game. They were never out of it, Derby. You know, even at 3-0 down, they'd had a great opportunity, had a goal missed. So it was a fantastic game that really could have gone either way. It was a shame there had to be a loser, but in the end, Forest, as you say, get their first victory of the season.
Sure. Well, here's what the two managers had to say about the match and that controversial ending.
Well, I got off. I saw their manager going onto the pitch towards in the direction of our supporters, so we went down the tunnel and tried to behave as responsibly as we could, and then got the players off as soon as we could as well. But I'm sure the referee was out there, and it's his job to ensure the safety of the players, so I'm sure the Premiership officials saw it all.
Well, I was in the tunnel at the time. It was difficult for me to say because I was walking up the tunnel and then I heard all this commotion of what's going on. I came back out again, I seen this big melee of people and I wasn't sure what happened, you know, and as I said before, that we enjoy the game. The moment was first class. I'll have a look at the video and see what took place.
Nathan Tyson should have a good look at himself. You know, I think, you know, the guys, if he does it in front of his own fans, you appreciate that. I done it with a scarf last year in front of my fans. You know, if Nathan Tyson runs over to his fans and does it, yeah, hands up, they've won the game, well done. In front of our fans, what happened in midweek at West Ham and Millwall, for scenes like that at the end, because of Nathan Tyson with the corner flag in front of our fans, disgraceful.
Well, unsurprisingly, the FA have said they will look into what happened as a matter of urgency. So Forest claw their way up the table, but what of the other strugglers? Dan O'Hagan looks at those championship teams desperate for points.
Just 4 days after Barnsley not Reading out of the League Cup, the two sides met again at Oakwell, with the Tucks continuing where they left off in the week. Andy Gray heading his first goal for the club after just 11 minutes. But Barnsley have looked fragile this season, and their lead was destined not to last. The goalkeeper Luke Steele did well to save a Gylfi Sigurdsson free kick, with Reading level from the resulting corner. The Roars have struggled for goals on the road this season. Captain Alex Pearce got their first of the campaign after some suicidal defending from the hosts. Reading's Brendan Rodgers is trying to steady the ship after several key departures this season, but they found themselves ahead just after half-time. Steele penalised for bringing down Jimmy Kebe. Noel Hunt stepped up to score his first goal since January and eased the nerves on the Royals bench. Reading have won 3 of their last 4 league games at Oakwell, and the points once again seemed in the bag just a minute later. Kebe again the creator, Hunt given too much room to not in his second of the game. The home crowd were calling for Simon Davies' head long before Argentine Roberto Colas saw his free kick go narrowly wide. The result saw Davey leave the club by mutual consent, leaving Barnsley 2 weeks to install a replacement before their game at Watford. Roy Keane arrived at Portman Road hoping to emulate Sir Bobby Robson, and he's already going close to doing so, but not in the manner he'd have liked. A defeat against Preston today would make this Ipswich's worst start for 40 years since Sir Bobby's first full season in charge. Early signs not good for the Tractor Boys. Ross Wallace signed by Keane at Sunderland, scoring on 12 minutes, beating Richard Wright on his 550th club career appearance. But the home fans soon had something to cheer. Callum Davidson appearing to handle Liam Trotter's header amid some goalmouth madness. Having already received a yellow card, this second bookable offence meant an early bath for Davidson. Jonathan Walters on the spot. Andy Lonergan guessed right and went right, but Walters scored the rebound for his 49th club career goal. Ipswich double their points tally, but for the first time in 6 years, they've not won any of their first 5 matches.
Well, we have to make the most of obviously the referee's decision in terms of giving us a penalty. That's the 4th penalty we've had now since pre-season. We've missed all 4 of them, but fortunately for us, he followed up with the rebound. So, listen, we went in a half-time on a high, and we knew that we needed to get him in the second half, and we had a right goal, but without that real quality to obviously to win the game.
Obviously, the sending off was a major event in the game, and that gave us a lot to do in the second half. But I was delighted with the way that we were organised, we were disciplined, we worked extremely hard, and everybody just put in a little bit extra for us.
3 years after Paul Sturrock was sacked by the Owls, his second spell as Argyle boss has seen Plymouth stutter and splutter to a winless start. Things began badly today for the home side when Wednesday broke the deadlock just after the half-hour mark. Marcus Tudgay leapt highest to head back across goal and find Richard Wood for a polished finish with 33 minutes gone. 10 minutes after half-time and Carl Fletcher nearly pulled the home team level. Only to see his measured shot come back off the upright and bounce away to safety. Then when Marcel Zayt clumsily clattered into Luke Varney just inside the area, the decision was clear-cut and Tudgay had the chance to add a goal of his own to his earlier assist. On his 150th appearance for Wednesday, Tudgay duly obliged from the spot on 72 minutes. Plymouth reacted well. That 2-goal cushion didn't last long for Wednesday. Just 8 minutes later, Alan Gow's free kick into the top corner. A move of real incision ended proceedings, and that man Tudgay involved again with his second goal of the afternoon. A comfortable 3-1 win for Brian Law's Owls. Perhaps one to tell the grandkids about.
I had a tough night last night. I become a granddad for the first time. So I was really delighted this morning to get that great news and to back it up with a win as well. So I'm dedicating that win to my my son and his little boy Kai. So it's been a good day.
It's been a tricky start for QPR. Despite being one of the richest clubs in the Championship, the Owls were still looking for their first win under Jim Magilton as they went to Scunthorpe. Rangers made the perfect start. Adel Tarat, one of a host of impressive loan signings, giving QPR the lead on just 3 minutes. Scunthorpe got back to winning ways in the Carling Cup in midweek, but they had Joe Murphy to thank for keeping the score at 1-0. Michele Legit were denied a second league goal of his season. The Irons showed with their win over Derby they'll be hard to beat at home this season, and they really should have levelled when Matt Sparrow failed to connect with Martin Wolford's superb cross. Radek Cherny is yet to keep a clean sheet in the league before this game, but the Owls had their Czech goalkeeper to thank as he kept out Grant McCann as they endured a nervy end to the game. The team from West London could have made the game safe late on. After the controversy of Eduardo's dive for Arsenal in the week, Murphy will feel relieved to have got away with what appeared to be a foul on Wayne Routledge. Jim Magilton was sent to the stands for his protests, but was still able to claim a first win as Queen's Park Rangers manager.
So first one for QPR, despite all the comings and goings at Loftus Road. First of all, Steve, Barnsley, Simon Davey, Park Company. Are you surprised by that 5 games into the season?
I'm not sure actually. It was almost the worst kept secret. Sorry, wasn't it? Everybody, was saying that he's under pressure, that he could lose his job. I mean, it's happened. It's by mutual consent. It's probably not a surprise.
I suppose it's contributed because of the fact that they had a pretty poor end to last season.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the cup runs out, they're probably their league form hasn't been great. But then, Barnsley aren't one of the bigger clubs in that league. So, I'm not quite sure exactly what expectations should be.
As for the Championship sides, going to an international break without a win for clubs like Ipswich and Plymouth, will those managers be nervous?
I think everybody's nervous if after 4 or 5 games you haven't managed to get a win on the board. But no, each club has to be judged on its own merits. It'll have its own expectations, and people be optimistic, but you've also got to be realistic as well.
Okay, well, no doubt Barnsley fans will be emailing, texting through. No doubt Forest and Derby fans too as to what happened at the City Ground. Lizzie, what have you got for us?
We've had so many texts and emails. I've got to talk about Forest first of all. A lot of people think Nathan Tyson is completely innocent. Now, I've got to say they're all Forest fans, but Rich was at the game and he said that Tyson was just making his way to another stand of Forest fans until the Derby players caused a scene. Gareth, who's a Forest fan, texted to say he was at the game and the trouble has been blown out of all proportion, but he also wants to credit the fans for not getting involved. Also, Rob emailed, and this is just his word, we can't confirm this, but he says that during the warm-up, Savage waved various parts of his anatomy at the Forest fans, and I've been told off by an anonymous texter who says, why is it when players fight it's seen as a harmless scrap, which is what I called it. He says it's worse than fans fighting. People look at the players as role models. Let's just talk a little bit about Barnsley. Of course, Simon Davey, as you said, has been sacked after their 3-1 defeat to Reading. Brett, a Barnsley fan by email, he said, Our fans won't forget the great things Davey did at the club, like keeping us up 3 times in a row, but it was his time to go and we need new blood. Also, he's asking the board to think long-term, adding experience is needed at hard times. Leroy, though, he disagrees. He says it'll be the biggest regret the club will make. He was the right man for the job and he's been treated like rubbish. And I've just got to tell you, I spoke to Owen from the Barnsley Supporters Trust a couple of hours ago and he said it definitely wasn't planned and that he hadn't expected Davey to go so soon. He says he thinks the board might have given him a little bit more time. He said they had no one in the frame, which seems incredible if you think about it. And he says they're going to start finding a new man on Monday. Quite a few people, though, are saying Steve Coppell. I don't know what Steve thinks about that.
Yes or no?
Well, if they could get him, yeah. I mean, he's done very well, Steve.
OK. Now, there was a meeting of the heavyweights at Bramall Lane today between two sides proud of their rich history. West Brom were founder members of the original Football League, and Sheffield United are no pups either.
Sheffield United were founded in 1889 and have played at Bramall Lane ever since. The ground itself dates back to 1855 and it's the oldest in the world still used for professional football. The club's heyday was from 1895 to 1925 when they won the original Division 1 title and the FA Cup on 4 occasions. Their goalkeeper around that time was 24-stone William Fatty Folk. In 1978, the club nearly signed a 17-year-old Diego Maradona. Now, having negotiated a fee of around £250,000, the board decided he wasn't worth it and refused to stump up the cash. Did you know that Sheffield United were the first English club to own a Chinese team, now renamed the Chengdu Blades, and they own Hungary's most famous team, Ferencváros. And in case you've never been able to work it out, the club's rousing terrace anthem, the Chip Butty song, a reworking of John Denver's Annie's song, is dedicated to the pleasures of beer, cigarettes, fatty food and all things Sheffield. With the exception of Wednesday, obviously.
Two Championship heavyweights met at Bramall Lane with Sheffield United and West Bromwich Albion, both looking to underline their promotion credentials after unbeaten starts. United hadn't lost in the league at home since February, and it was Kevin Blackwell's side who looked the brighter in the early exchanges. Ched Evans' ambitious effort that Scott Carson could only watch whistle past the post. It took until the second half of the game to suddenly spring to life. West Brom have continued their attractive footballing philosophy under Roberto Di Matteo, and that was on show as they took the lead 9 minutes after half-time. Roman Bednar putting his Baggies career back on track. The Blades came from behind to beat Reading last weekend. It took them just 2 minutes here to regain parity. The lively Jamie Ward setting up Ched Evans for his second goal since his move to Manchester City. It was Route 1 play that put the Baggies back into the lead only 4 minutes later. Carson's long ball caused havoc in the middle of the Blades' defence. Roman Bednar repaid his manager's faith by scoring his first brace since February 2008. Jamie Ward has been in great form despite missing the first game of the season through suspension, and the young midfielder thought he'd scored his side's equaliser. The referee's assistant, though, thought otherwise. West Brom have won on 2 of their last 3 visits to Bramall Lane, but they were denied a win here when Sean Cummings brought down Darius Henderson. Substitute David Cottrell stepped up to score his second in 2 games to give both sides a share of the points. And both teams stay unbeaten.
Well, we've had a month now to assess these two teams. I think it's fair to say that if you had to predict 2 teams to finish in the top 6, those 2 would be it.
They would. If someone had said to me before the start of the season, you've got £10 to put on one team, you've got £10 to put on another, to finish top 6, I would have said in a very unpredictable league, those would have probably been where my money would have gone. Simply because on and probably just as importantly, off the pitch, they're both in reasonably good nick and they both know exactly what it takes to be successful at this level.
So predictably good, in other words?
Yes, I think so. I mean, there are one or two other sides that you'd mentioned, but we're not quite sure whether all the cards have been played off the pitch so far. For these two, we know exactly where they are.
OK, so West Brom staking their claim for top spot, but what did the other challengers have to say about that?
Bristol City manager Gary Johnson proclaimed Middlesbrough the best team in the Championship ahead of their meeting at Ashton Gate. On this showing, it didn't look that way. Borough looking for a club record start to their league campaign, and they were nearly ahead a minute before half-time. David Wheater, a crossbar's width away from opening the scoring. Borough had yet to concede a league goal before the game, but they fell behind in the 63rd minute. A slip by Jonathan Grounds, allowing Nicky Maynard to score his 50th career goal. The Robins were looking for their third 1-0 win of the season at Ashton Gate, but Borough were given a route back into the game when the referee adjudged Lewis Carey to have handled in the box. Adam Johnson had 4 goals before this game, and he stepped up with confidence to make it 5. Borough on course for an unlikely share of the spoils. But Maynard scored the winner in each of City's home wins this campaign, and he was on hand to score the winner again after a superb through ball from Paul Hartley. A huge scalp for Gary Johnson's team, and a first league defeat for a disappointed Gareth Southgate.
We should have come away with a point, simple as that. I think once we got back into the game, you know, we had a good chance to actually win it, and then what you've got to do is make sure you don't lose it. So bitterly disappointed that we've come away with nothing.
All Ian Holloway's league games in charge of Blackpool have been draws. One more today would equal a club record of 5 consecutive stalemates set back in 1977. Understandable then, the Tangerines came flying from the blocks in search of an opener, and they came close early on when Gary Taylor-Fletcher's header just clipped the bar. Persistence paid off when more pressure from the left led Sammy Clingan to concede a penalty for this foul on Ben Burgess. Charlie Adam was calmness personified. 1-0 on 13 minutes. 40 minutes after half-time, and Blackpool double their lead in emphatic style. Ormerod's cross from the left, and Ben Burgess' header off the crossbar for 2-0 Blackpool. That elusive first win is guaranteed on 71 minutes. Good work again from Ormerod, his cross put away by Gary Taylor-Fletcher for the second time of asking. This his third goal in 3 games. For the Sky Blues fans, an early exit summed up an afternoon to forget, but for a happy Holloway and his men, a first league win to savour. Fans' favourite Lee Trundle was guaranteed a hero's welcome on his return to the Liberty Stadium, back at Swansea on loan from Bristol City. While away team Watford feared a lack of firepower following the sale of Tommy Smith to Portsmouth and Joby McAnuff to Reading. Swansea yet to score at home this season, but forged a great opportunity early on. Mark Gower's thunderous effort coming back off the crossbar. In the second half, Watford sprang to life, and a well-worked free kick saw Tom cleverly release Danny Graham to put the Hornets a goal up on 66 minutes with an acute finish. It may have been the late show, but the Swans finally scored that long-awaited first home goal of the season in stoppage time. Alan Tate heading home from Mark Gower's pinpoint delivery to ensure a share of the spoils.
When we get it, we create, we push them, and in the end, like I said, we can in the end to be more happy than now.
There's been plenty to smile about for Dave Jones at Cardiff. A new stadium, top of the table and scoring goals for fun. The Bluebirds looking to continue their impressive start against a side they hadn't lost to in 58 years. It was host Doncaster who began the game though, looking like the league leaders. An early corner headed in by Adam Lockwood for his second goal of the season and his side's first goal in open play for 4 matches. Before the game, Donny had scored just once at home in the league all season, but Sean O'Driscoll's men were 2 goals up within 17 minutes. James Hayter putting his side firm in control with his second of the season. Dave Jones said his side didn't put the work in, and having conceded just 4 goals this season, they almost found themselves 3-0 down at the beginning of the second half, only a fine save by David Marshall denying Martin Woods his second goal in 2 games. Michael Chopra has been in fine goal-scoring form so far this campaign and would have been the man most Cardiff fans wanted on the end of this chance. Neil Sullivan, a relieved man after Chopra failed to add to his 7 league goals this season. Plenty for Sean O'Driscoll to be happy with. For Dave Jones, the international break gives time to reflect on what went wrong.
So some informed sides coming unstuck there, including the leaders Cardiff, who were outplayed by Doncaster for their first league win.
Yeah, 2 early goals for Donny, and they're not a side that you want to go behind against because they can knock the ball around. Strange that they're very in and out sort of side. I remember last year they went through a spell of, that during last season where they couldn't score a goal for love nor money, and then they came good towards the end of the season. They've had a bit of a funny start to this one, but that's a fantastic result.
Good win too for Gary Johnson's Bristol City against a Borough side who could still lose more players before Tuesday.
Well, this is what I'm saying. The cards haven't, they haven't been played out quite yet, and there's no doubt the psychological effect of losing 2 players. Tunchay and Huth went today. Has had an adverse effect, and I don't think with Huth in their side they would have conceded from a long straight ball like they did for the second one at Bristol.
And what a week for Blackpool. 4-1 against Wigan in the Carling Cup, 3-0 against Coventry today.
Remain unbeaten, and he's doing a fantastic job up there, isn't he? And they've actually got the Enfield in as well, which is lovely.
We saw a stand there.
Thank goodness for that.
Well into them. Let's see what some of you are saying on the emails and texts. Lizzie.
We've had absolutely loads and lots from Barnsley fans, but an interesting one here from Joe. He says, we need a boss like Nigel Adkins. He's worked wonders at Scunthorpe. If the board back him and supply him with some money, he's proven to bring in young, hungry players and turn them into stars. But we've also had lots of texts and emails from Plymouth fans, lots of them asking Paul Sturrock to leave. I hope you're not watching, Paul. After another defeat, this time to Sheffield Wednesday, Jens, who's a Plymouth fan, emailed. He said, I'm getting fed up with poor results, long ball tactics and a squad of players who don't respond to the management. Time for a change. Maybe Koppel, Boothroyd or Kirbishley. Those managers are in quite a lot of demand, according to the text from you guys. Let's look at the Bristol City-Middlesbrough match because Ryan is another Bristol City fan, has emailed to say, forget Michael Chopra, take a look at Nicky Maynard. He is on fire. But Dan, who's a Middlesbrough fan, texted to say, I was at the Borough game and it's sad to see 2 of our best players go. Today's scoreline is just the beginning. Worrying times ahead. Thanks for those emails and keep them coming in.
Thanks, Lizzie. Now, not since 1973 and the start of Don Revy's final season as boss have Leeds United started a campaign with 7 wins. But that was a scenario awaiting them as they travelled to Colchester, a venue that brings back painful memories for many Leeds fans, as Mark Clemmit now explains.
Kick being taken by Brian Lewis. On spray missed it and Gibbs. Crawford got it.
Colchester's 3-2 win over mighty Leeds in February 1971 is one of the most talked about games in FA Cup history. Sprake, Reaney, Cooper, Bates, Charlton, Hunter, Lorimer, Clark, Jones, Giles and Madeley. The legendary table-topping Leeds team still trips off the tongue of football fans of a certain age today, and yet 74 league positions below them, Colchester pulled off one of the competition's greatest ever upsets.
And Simmons 1 against 1 here. Simmons and Reaney. And it's there.
No, well, it makes you think, on the day. I mean, I don't think about any other time other than sort of on the way here. There was a young guy in the car who was probably only about 3 or 4, and he said, what happened? And we had to go through the whole game with him. But 3-0 down, we got back to 3-2 and didn't get out of trouble. But yeah, of course it comes back to you, and you'll remember the game and you remember the day. You remember your wins, but you also remember the bad ones. We're late.
Meanwhile, in the modern world, it's 6 wins out of 6 in all competitions for Leeds. Something Colchester might have been hoping to emulate if it wasn't for the distraction of having to replace manager Paul Lambert after his defection to Norwich. Must be an uncertain sort of position for everybody at the club. You just don't know who's going to walk through the door.
Well, you're waiting for, you read the reports, you kind of notice people sitting in the stands, so you know that they're talking behind your back, and The focus is the players, and you just get on with it because you know things will change anyway. And my role is just to make sure we don't bring too many changes in a short period of time that will probably affect when the new guy comes in.
We've started the season well with a great deal of confidence, but we know we've got a lot of work still to be done.
Crucial question, you know I'm going to ask it. Mr. Beckford's with you today?
Yes, he certainly is. He'll be fit and ready to go, and he'll still be here at the end of the season as well.
The only surprise when these two high-scoring teams clashed was that there were no goals in the first half. Although not for the want of trying. Prolific striker Jermaine Beckford was twice denied by offside flags inside the first 15 minutes. And if the referee's assistant didn't get him, then he couldn't find a way past the impressive Ben Williams in the Colchester goal. But Beckford would have the last word in this one. Leeds were looking for a 7th straight win to start the season, equalling a club record. And they were finally on their way when Bradley Johnson nodded in a Robert Snodgrass free kick shortly after the break. Colchester equalised after 57 minutes, and it came from the penalty spot after Kevin Lisby's clever run utterly bamboozled Rui Marquez, who didn't even bother to complain about it. Lisby picked himself up to collect his 4th goal of the season. But back to Beckford, who finally got the goal his efforts deserved on 64 minutes. That's a magnificent 7 in a row for Leeds, who will hope the transfer window closes with their star striker still at Elland Road.
And that's why you want to keep Jermaine Beckford.
Well, strikers are hard to find, and when you've got somebody on your books already that's liable to score your goals at any particular time, well, you do your best to keep him, and that's what he's all about.
You're a little horse, mate. You could do a fine Rod Stewart impression with a voice like that.
You're joking, are you? No, it comes with the territory. I think if you ask every manager at sort of 5 o'clock on a Saturday night, we're all a bit hoarse from trying to get our words of wisdom across, or trying to get across to the players when they're calling a blank one from you.
His wife's going to be absolutely delighted. Complete silence in the Grayson household tomorrow. Well done, mate.
Cheers, thank you very much.
5 wins in a row then for Leeds. To be honest, they're coming true to form, aren't they, this season?
They are, and obviously Mr. Beckford's going to play a big part in that. I think the luxury they have over probably any other team in that division is that he would have gone, but it's only Leeds that could keep him. And as Simon Grayson says, he'll be here till the end of the season. He can leave on a free, but he'll be here till the end of the season.
So you think they'll hold on to him? What about someone like Robert Snodgrass, who's also a fantastic
I don't think
potential.
anyone else will leave. They made £4.5 million profit on their turnover last year. They've just got good money in for Fabian Delph. It was around £8 million. They don't need to sell anybody else. In fact, I probably wouldn't be surprised if they maybe added 1 or 2.
OK, as for Colchester, 3 wins to begin with in the season. They've lost their last 2. Is that as a result of the uncertainty in the dressing room? And
that will have an effect. They also lost Dean Hammond to Southampton, their captain, which is obviously, you know, as I say, psychologically doesn't do you any favours. And there's a little bit of an in-between sort of time at the club that needs to be resolved and resolved quickly.
All right, dare I say, Leeds fans will have been emailing and texting through. Lizzie, what have you got for us?
Well, they have done, but I was actually at that game, Manish, and I was very impressed with Leeds. I haven't seen them play for some time, and I just thought they kind of almost looked like a championship side, and I'm going to stick my neck out and tip them for promotion. And maybe not as champions, but possibly as runners-up. And as you were talking about Jermaine Beckford, I thought he was awesome today, and I think that he's probably going to go, I'm afraid. I know that Steve just said that they don't need to sell any players. Well, he's linked with a possible move to Bolton, and I would be surprised if he's still there come Tuesday. Also, let's talk about Colchester, because actually they were quite unlucky today, and as you said, they've had a bit of a shocking last couple of weeks. They lost their manager, their captain, and 2 of their key backroom staff. And the latest news on the manager's situation there is that they're going to make up their minds on Wednesday, so watch this space.
Thanks, Lizzie. Now, there was a League One game played last night. It ended up honours even at New Den as Millwall and Brighton drew 1 apiece. David Martin's cross from the left set up Jason Price for a tap into the delights of the home fans. Well, Russell Slade's Brighton almost equalised. Dean Cox chipping against the bar before it was scrambled to safety. But 2 minutes later, Adam Virgo set up Nicky Forster to score. That got them on level terms. Brighton, though, it has to be said, survived a couple of late scares, including this Jimmy Abdu shot saved by Michael Kuipers as they held out for the draw. So Leeds guaranteed top spot in League One unless Charlton could better their result at struggling Tranmere Rovers.
Charlton arrived at Tranmere with their hearts set on a new club record. 5 successive league wins would be their best ever start to a season. Winger Lloyd Sam's been one of the outstanding players in that run and soon had a place on the scoresheet to prove it. Tranmere are a team in transition, trying to get to grips with the pass and move style John Barnes believes will be a long-term success. But in this game, Charlton were playing all the football. Jose Semedo's first ever goal for the club made it 2-0. Lloyd Sam went the whole of last season without scoring once. 4 minutes into the second half, he doubled his tally for the afternoon as Charlton took complete command. And the scoreline reached embarrassing proportions when the Addicks' leading scorer last season, Nick Bailey, netted his 3rd of this campaign. 3 league defeats in a row for Rovers.
Huddersfield and Yeovil kicked off early, and it was the home side who needed a wake-up call after Yeovil opened the scoring after just 6 minutes. Kieran Murtagh with his first senior goal. He won't score many better. The Terriers then conceded their 4th penalty of the season 7 minutes later. Ironically, it was Lee Peltier who gave it away with a wild swing at Jonathan Obika. Peltier is a former Yeovil player, but his blushes were spared when Alex Smithies saved Gavin Tomlin's spot kick. And that proved to be a turning point as Huddersfield finally got going. They were level just past the half-hour when Theo Robinson tucked away Anthony Pilkington's cross, his 6th goal since arriving from Watford in the summer. The winner arrived on 65 minutes. Lionel Ainsworth's teasing cross teed up Michael Collins, and his header was always destined for the back of the net. Huddersfield maintain their 100% home record, and they're tucked in just behind the early pace setters.
Trounced at Norwich last week, Wickham vowed to tighten up, especially from set pieces. That plan didn't go too well. Chris Lynes had Bristol Rovers contemplating a 4th straight league win. Fortunately for Peter Taylor, his side was good going forward. Their finishing, fantastic. Wickham level at half-time thanks to that scorcher from Matt Phillips. And Wanderers clinched their first victory since promotion to League One with another moment of class. Sub John Paul Pittman's perfect strike came just 10 minutes from time. Rovers' performance was substandard, according to boss Paul Trollope.
Stockport chose Southampton's visit to launch a fundraising campaign for leukemia research. Football really isn't a matter of life and death, a fact not lost on Stockport's Carl Baker. He has 2 brothers battling the illness. The match itself was not without controversy. Just before the interval, referee Carl Boyson awarded Southampton a penalty for a handball against Michael Rains. Stockport didn't like it, and liked it even less once their old boy Ricky Lambert dispatched the spot kick. In the second half, it was winless Southampton's turn to feel aggrieved. Lambert had already hit the bar when Marek Saganovsky had his effort chalked off for a debatable offside. And worse was to come. Deep into stoppage time, up popped Mr. Boyson once more, this time seeing a handball against Neil Trotman. Another penalty. Fittingly, it was Baker who put away the spot kick with effectively the last act of the match. The Saints are still well adrift at the foot of the table. Bad enough to start the season on minus 10 points. Even worse to feel the officials have got it in for you too.
Inside the opening 6 minutes, Jermaine Easter ruined Exeter's afternoon as MK Dons continued their unbeaten start to the season. Just 31 seconds gone when Easter popped in the first goal. The summer signing from Plymouth had the home defence running scared. They had a couple of chances to snuff out his second, but nobody made a firm challenge, and the unfortunate Paul Jones saw the ball squirm over the line. 6 minutes into the second half, Exeter were back in contention. Barry Corr was sent off in his first appearance for the club away at Leeds. His home debut memorable for the right reasons. Not enough though, MK Dons move up to 3rd.
Brentford certainly aren't struggling with life at a higher level. Since going up as League Two champions last term, they're unbeaten in League One and look destined for all 3 points at Griffin Park when the persistence of Sam Saunders tempted Andy Holdsworth into a rash challenge. Kevin O'Connor duly smashed home the penalty to give the London side the advantage 2 minutes before half-time. But Oldham ensured a share of the spoils in the second half thanks to a spot of genuine quality from Nick Blackman. The 19-year-old Blackburn loanee curling one into the top corner. This one finished honours even.
There are no home comforts for Hartlepool fans. Mickey Nelson, who left Victoria Park for Norwich in the summer, marked his return in style. Unlikely acrobatics from the burly defender. Norwich found Sunderland far too strong in the Cup in midweek, but in the league, manager Paul Lambert now has 2 wins from 2. This one wrapped up by Stephen Hughes, ensuring Hartlepool's 5th successive home league defeat, 3 this season.
Leyton Orient and Carlisle served up an entertaining game at Brisbane Road, and it was the visitors who opened their account first. A perfect through ball from Tom Tewo enabled the lively Matt Robson to score his first goal for Carlisle since joining from Hartlepool. The Londoners were back on level terms soon after the break, and it was harsh on Carlisle's Peter Murphy, who was penalised for a high foot by referee Graham Horwood. Scott McLeish just about beat the dive of Lenny Pidgley to make it 1 apiece, a scoreline which slightly flattered the hosts. McLeish scored his first goal for Orient 14 years ago, and the old boy turned back the years to put his side in front with 5 minutes remaining, the O's within touching distance of their first home win of the campaign. But justice was probably served when Carlisle levelled in stoppage time. Paul Thirlwell doesn't get many, but his 7th goal in nearly 250 matches was timed to perfection, and no more than the visitors deserved.
Swindon are finding their rhythm, unbeaten since the opening day, and Danny Wilson's men took the lead when Southend's ball-watching defenders failed to notice Scott Cuthbert. Another boost for the home side 11 minutes before half-time. Jean-Francois Christophe appeared to be in serious pain, but made a miraculous recovery. He's obviously not been following the Eduardo story. Referee Mick Russell duly dished out the Frenchman's second booking. The officials certainly won't be too popular back in Southend. Steve Tilson's team convinced there were 2 fouls in the build-up to Swindon's second. A first senior goal for the persistent Tope Obade on loan from Bolton. Almost immediately, Damien Scannell pulled one back. But there were just 9 minutes to go. Not enough time for the Essex club to complete the recovery.
Some goalless draws are nail-biting thrillers. This wasn't one of them. Neither side had won since opening day, and neither looked likely to here. Mark McCammon pushed the ball in with his hand early on, not that anyone was fooled. Walsall's best chance was probably this Sam Parkin effort, which was deflected wide. One of those matches where the final whistle puts everyone out of their misery.
So, honours even at the best, Scott. But good to see promoted Wycombe up and running with their first win of the season, Steve, particularly against the informed Bristol Rovers side.
Yes, there were some quality goals in that league,
just
weren't
a few.
there? And certainly 2 of them were down to Wycombe. John Paul Pittman and Matt Phillips. They were fantastic finishes, fantastic strikes, and as you say, first win of the season, always one nice one to get out of the way.
It's not happening for John Barnes at Tranmere at the minute, is it?
No, there's a little bit of disquiet. I think difficult. They were a point away from the playoffs last year. You have to say it's a tough act to follow. Ronnie Moore set the bar pretty high. It doesn't look like they're going to replicate that. And you just wonder, is anything less than that going to be seen as failure? Because if it is, it's a tough act to follow.
5 wins out of 5 for Charlton. Phil Parkinson, incidentally, has fielded the same 11 5 times this season. You can see where his secret has come from, consistency.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, he took over last year from Alan Pardew. All right, OK, they didn't stay up. He wasn't able to turn the tide, but he brought some good players. I think one eye with regards to this league, and they've started extremely well.
Now, Eduardo from Arsenal, of course, has been in the news this week for, what should we say, simulation. Now, the same was going to be said for Southend's Jean-Francois Christophe, but you don't think this was a dive, do you?
No, I don't. I mean, there you can see that he is caught. The lad's tackle is on the top of his foot. OK, it's theatrical. We've seen it before with Robbie Savage, but I don't think he deserved to get sent off. It was a foul, clearly. He's made a lot of it. But that's the dangers you make. That's the dangers when you overreact like that. Then if you get it wrong, then you run the wrath of the referee, unfortunately.
OK, let's check in now with Lizzie for your emails and texts. Lizzie.
Well, Manish, we've had lots of Charlton fans emailing and texting to remind me of just how well they're doing, as if we didn't know already. Martin has emailed to say, who believed this is the same side relegated from the Championship last year? 5 straight wins, all down to the manager, Phil Parkinson. He says, take note, Leeds fans, you're not the only team in this division. We've also heard from Chris, who's a Wickham fan. He texted to say, I was worried about Wickham in League One, but I think we might make it with a future Premier League star like Matty Phillips. Now, Keith, who's a Brentford fan, has a message for their manager, Andy Scott. Andy, if you're watching, Keith says the fans were booing the referee, not their players. Andy, who's a Swindon fan, he texted to say, Danny Wilson has completely turned Swindon around. Keep this up and we'll be in the Championship next season. Got to talk a little bit more about Leeds. Jason has texted to say, if Leeds don't go up this season, he's going to go out, buy a hat and then eat it. I'm not sure that's going to taste very nice. But we've had quite a few texts and emails also about Leeds playing Liverpool, of course, in their Carling Cup third-round draw. All the Leeds fans at the game today were very, very excited about this. The last time they played them was 5 years ago in the Premiership. Tom, who's a Leeds fan, emailed to say, this will be an amazing match. The atmosphere will be like those Premiership years. And if all our stars perform, we could be in with a fighting chance. And don't forget, we have full highlights of all the Carling Cup matches right here on the Football League show.
Thanks, Lizzie. Now the Notts County bandwagon just keeps rolling. In goal, one of the brightest and youngest of goalkeepers in Kasper Schmeichel. Now they've got one of the most experienced centre-halves to marshal the defence in front of him, but not just yet.
No Sol Campbell on the pitch just yet, not match fit, but Mike Gatting and Sven kept up the famous face quota at Underhill. No doubt sure they get good entertainment. Notts County will always create chances with the likes of Hughes hunting for goals. It took a sharp save from Jake Cole to keep him off the scoresheet. Barnet had just won their last 2 games, so this was never likely to be a walkover. John O'Flynn should have had them in front in the second half. The Bees boss Ian Hendon skippered Notts County to promotion 11 years ago under Sam Allardyce. No divided loyalties though, delighted again to see Cole stop Ricky Ravenhill. Sven pulled a sour face, and with good reason, a man of his experience could guess what was coming. In stoppage time, young sub Jake Hyde made a huge impact within a couple of minutes of coming on. His match winner takes Barnet above County in the table.
Well, if Notts County and their new riches are one side of football, Bournemouth are the other, having suffered 2 successive points deductions for going into administration. But they've started strongly this season, and their clash with Crewe saw 4th v 3rd, with the winner guaranteed a top 3 spot at the end of the day.
Times have been hard for Bournemouth. Years of financial struggle almost saw them surrender their league status last season, and the club still operates under a transfer embargo. Despite that, young manager Eddie Howe has got the cherries flying, and in this top-of-the-table meeting with Crewe, Brett Pittman summed up the mood of optimism around Dean Court these days by using the visiting goal as target practice. Crewe had their moments too. Anthony Elding could have done better here, but the first half was goalless. The breakthrough finally came 6 minutes into the second half. The impressive Liam Feeney on a mazy run and rounding Crewe captain Billy Jones before finishing in style with a powerful shot. It was the first goal Crewe had conceded in 5.5 hours of football, and there could have been more had Feeney been a little more fortunate. The Cherries are in the top 3 tonight. Despite their troubled past, the future for Bournemouth is looking very positive.
OK, here's the rest of the action from League Two.
Lincoln have 125 years experience to call on. Dagenham and Redbridge mere toddlers by comparison. But John Steele's bright young things look mightily impressive so far this season. They led Lincoln after just 13 minutes. John Nurse providing the perfect start in a match the Daggers never looked like losing, and which had the travelling fans calling for manager Peter Jackson to stand down. Paul Benson missed a sitter, but the bombardment was non-stop. Nurse went agonisingly close to a second. And Stuart Thurgood very nearly got lucky with a miscued cross. Dagenham eventually extended their lead in the second half. Danny Green with the pick of their goals. As the Essex club proved, their defeat by Notts County was just a blip. It's Dagenham top of the pile after another convincing scoreline, given extra gloss by Nurse's second of the match.
Matthew Tipton is a cult hero at Moss Rose, and he almost opened the scoring against Rotherham. But the high-flying Millers were on the board first. Adam Lafondre's near-post header, his third goal in Rotherham's red since his arrival from Rochdale during the close season. Tom Pope had scored twice in the brave 4-3 Carling Cup defeat at West Brom in midweek, and the former Crewe striker headed home Nicky Law's free kick on 37 minutes. But Macclesfield were back in it just before half-time. Inevitably, Tipton was in the thick of things, the Welshman getting on the end of Colin Daniels' cross, his third goal in as many matches. Tipton's personal duel with Rotherham keeper Andy Warrington wasn't over. The veteran keeper again coming out on top, although he needed a second bite at the cherry. And with 3 minutes left, Rotherham hit their hosts with a classic counter-punch. Danny Harrison applying the finishing touch, Rotherham up to second in the table.
A couple of weeks back, Burton Albion put 5 past Morecambe. Manager Paul Pescasolido had an eye for goal himself, of course, so you'd expect his team to attack. But nobody thought Northampton, who started the weekend with League Two's best defensive record, would be so generous. Town had only conceded 1 league goal all season, but fell to pieces. Chris Dunn's disaster led in Sean Harrop for the second-minute smash and grab. And just 5 minutes later, the Northampton backline was all over the place again. Michael Simpson, the beneficiary. The midfielder off the mark for the season, and soon to double his tally. On the sidelines, Northampton boss Stuart Gray must have been utterly bemused. Town heartily sick of the Tom Hart tune already, and just 11 minutes gone. After the break, Northampton did get their act together, and for a while it seemed there might even be a comeback on the cards, as Steve Guinan pounced when Luke Bowden's shot was parried. There'd be a nervous ending in store for Burton. The anxiety already starting to show when Gary Mulligan was hauled down just as he was about to shoot. The spot kick taken by Ryan Gilligan. With 9 minutes still to play, the revival really seemed on, but Northampton's urgency ultimately counted for nothing. Burton held out to continue their so far very promising transition to league football.
Grimsby were seeking their first home win, Aldershot their first away victory, so something had to give. Quick thinking led to Danny North tapping in for Grimsby, but the offside flag was raised with equal speed. With 2 goals against Accrington last week, Scott Donnelly can't stop scoring. He was at it again after 27 minutes, nodding in the cross from Louis Soares. And there was more to come 4 minutes after the break. Donnelly's effort wasn't the best, but it was too much for keeper Tommy Forecast to handle, and he was punished as the hot shot put away the rebound. With 9 minutes remaining, the Mariners gave themselves a lifeline when Barry Conlon rose highest for his 3rd goal of the season. That was it for the scoring, but the drama was about to begin. In stoppage time, Grimsby substitute Adam Proudlock fouled Dave Winfield. The cameras missed it, but the officials didn't. An unseemly brawl ensued, and when the dust had finally settled, there were red cards for Proudlock and Conlon. Referee Peter Quinn needed an escort as the match ended with tempers high. Aldershot up to 7th, Grimsby in trouble on and probably off the pitch.
Accrington Stanley started out with a defiant message, but ended up with their tail between their legs, on course for a 3rd successive defeat from the moment Dean Winnard decided to wrestle with Dave Hibbert. Stephen Leslie won the battle of wits. The only optimism for Accrington was the fact Shrewsbury had failed to keep a clean sheet so far this season. Calvin Langmead was determined to change that statistic. And as if his last-ditch defending wasn't enough, he went up the other end to put the Shrews in control. Pre-match, Accrington's Michael Symes was very vocal about his desire to prove a point. Unceremoniously ditched by Shrewsbury before last season's playoffs, he exacted some measure of revenge. But his team couldn't make use of a lifeline. Shrewsbury made absolutely sure of maximum points with 8 minutes left as Hibbert rounded off their first success on the road.
It's a long run from the English Riviera to the heart of West Yorkshire, but Torquay arrived at Bradford having made a solid start to the campaign since regaining their league status last season. But the Bantams kick-started their own challenge with a 5-4 win at Cheltenham last week, and they went in front just before half-time. James Hansen with the header. Torquay were almost back in it when Simon Eastwood completely lost Mustafa Carayol's cross, but the Bradford keeper redeemed himself when he smothered this shot from Tim Sills. And the home side made sure in the waning moments. Michael Flynn's long punt met by former Torquay striker Chris Brandon. 7 goals in 2 games now after failing to hit the target in their first 4. Bradford are up and running.
Ten days ago, Notts County suffered at Saltergate, so what chance of winless Morecambe making any impact? Early on, it seemed not much. Barry Roach denying Mark Allett, and the former Chesterfield keeper really had to be on his toes against his old club, equally acrobatic to thwart Jack Lester. Having survived for 70 minutes, Morecambe very nearly made the breakthrough themselves. Phil Jevons so close to delighting that small band of away fans. Instead, Chesterfield just increased their efforts and finally got what they wanted. A goal widely credited to Drew Talbot, but Leicester definitely got the final touch. Happy to claim his first of the season. Morecambe, though, came back strongly, and Manny Panther's cross hit the raised arm of the Spirite skipper Ian Breckin. Jevons wasn't going to see another chance go begging. The Shrimps netting their first away point of the season and showing exactly the type of fighting spirit Sammy McElroy must have wanted.
Spare a thought for Darlington, whose League Two campaign had yielded precisely nothing prior to this one. Not that Cheltenham appeared sympathetic, Justin Richards finishing off after Marley Watkins had been given the freedom of the penalty area. But the team cobbled together over the summer by manager Colin Todd finally ended their losing streak when Kevin Gall celebrated his first start of the season with a goal 19 minutes from time. A point at last for Darlington, and perhaps something to build on.
Fresh from single-handedly destroying Sheffield's Carling Cup hopes, sending Wednesday the same way as United, Port Vale were hopeful at Hereford. Only the crossbar kept Gareth Owen from carrying on the good work. But the home side drew first blood. Mark Pugh's fancy footwork creating his third of the season. The lead lasted until 4 minutes into the second half when Tommy Fraser found Louis Dodds, who found the corner with impressive accuracy. Port Vale manager Mickey Adams finally signed a 1-year contract this week, and the fans must like what they've seen so far in his 3 months in charge. Rob Taylor's superb shot had the Valiants in front for the first time. But Hereford, yet to win, did at least salvage their third draw of the campaign when Richard Rose went to ground. Tristan Plummer did the honours to earn Hereford their point, much to Adams' annoyance.
2 lapses of concentration, one in each half, have cost us a game. Really, we should have won it quite comfortably.
Derby day at Spotland. Neighbours Rochdale and Bury are separated by just 7 miles of the A58. Shout loud enough and you can be heard in the other guy's backyard. And it was the home fans making most of the noise just before the hour when Joe Thompson's shot took a cruel deflection. Thompson, the Usain Bolt of Rochdale. After 73 minutes, Tom Kennedy's through ball sprung a non-existent offside trap, and Chris Dagnall kept his cool to beat Wayne Brown for his second goal in consecutive games. And Rochdale's first league win of the season was confirmed 8 minutes later. Referee Keith Stroud certainly had a good view of this collision between Paul Scott and the extremely acrobatic Will Buckley, a penalty. And Kennedy grabbed the opportunity to score against his former club to give Rochdale a first home win over their near neighbours in 16 years.
So Rochdale getting the better of their local rivals there, Bury. Which results in particular caught your eye in League Two, Steve?
Well, I think firstly, obviously, Barnet beating high-flying Notts County.
I mean, they've won their last 3 now, haven't they?
They have, yes, and they're going very well. Dagenham and Redbridge back to the top. Obviously, Rotherham and Bournemouth also starting very, very well. So, yeah, there's 3 or 4 sides to keep your eye on there.
Yeah, now, as impressive as that win was for Rochdale over Bury, as mindless acts go, this ranks up there as one of them, doesn't it?
Well, this is up there with Nathan Tyson.
This is Thomas Kennedy celebrating the penalties we just saw at the end of that roundup.
Yeah. Well,
what do you think was going through his head here then, Steve?
No idea. I mean, first it's a contentious penalty that is obviously not well received by the Burnley supporters. They're already 2-0 down. You've got to take a judgment call here. This is not a time to start winding people up. He runs the whole length of that side, which is the side that is housing the Bury fans. They're right down that side of the ground. And as you can see, one of them tries to get on, and he causes almost a riot there, which it just get a feel for the mood of the crowd. If they're not compatible with a little bit of joviality and a bit of a laugh and a joke, then don't go anywhere near it. And that's absolute lunacy.
It was similar to Junior Stanislas, wasn't
it? You're just asking for trouble.
OK. All right, well, it's time to find out now what League Two fans are saying on the emails and text front. Lizzie, finally to you for this evening.
Yeah, Manish, well, we've had loads from Dagenham and Redbridge fans who are so pleased that their team are flying at the top of the league. Gaz, who's a Daggers fan, says, another brilliant performance today. Good to see that despite losing some big players, we still have the magic. Watch out, though, Daggers fans, because I hear that Colchester are very interested in your manager, John Still. Let's talk about Notts County here, because Ashley's emailed to say he's unhappy with the way that the fans treat the manager, Ian McParland. He says, whenever Notts win, Sven gets the credit, and when they lose, McParland gets the abuse. Well, Hayden is a Hereford United fan, and he says still no win this season, but if Hereford players don't pull their socks up, they won't be playing league football next season. You have been warned, Hereford players. And Alex, who's a Crew fan, says League Two is very close this year. It's going to go down to the wire, and it all depends who stays injury-free. And I've just got to finish tonight's emails with a wonderful suggestion from Ray, who's a Barnsley fan, who says that Jose Mourinho should replace Simon Davey. Thank you very much for all your texts and emails. It really does make a difference to make sure that we know what you, the fans, really think.
Thanks very much, Lizzie. Well, before we go, let's see what all that means to the various league tables. Let's start with the top of League Two. Free-scoring Dagenham and Redbridge head the pack on goal difference. They're on 12 points, along with Rotherham and Bournemouth. All three of those sides have had a terrific opening month of the new campaign. At the bottom, Darlington, of course, picked up their first point of the season today. Accrington Stanley, one of 4 sides on 3 points. At the top of League One, Charlton and Leeds, a fantastic start to the new season. 5 wins out of 5 for them. At the bottom, 3 consecutive draws, or 3 draws in all, rather, for Southampton, means that they're now on -7. It's a winless August for Russell Slade's Brighton, and a tough start to the new season for John Barnes' Tranmere. At the top of the Championship, well, the top 3 all dropped points today. West Brom, however, lead by 1 point on 11. Cardiff, Middlesbrough, Newcastle and Bristol City, all on 10 points. Newcastle, incidentally, host Leicester on Monday. At the bottom, Simon Davey paid the price, of course, for Barnsley's poor start to the season. They're on just the 1 point. Peterborough, who got their 1 point a little earlier in the season, will be looking to build on that when they take on Crystal Palace on Bank Holiday Monday too. Don't forget to press the red button as soon as we're off air to access this programme once again. And it's also on the BBC iPlayer for Monday morning. And also check out the fabulous BBC football website for extensive highlights of your team in action. Also, Match of the Day too for the final word on the weekend's games, and also highlights of tomorrow's 3 Premier League games. That's on at 10:45 on BBC One. Well, that's almost it. We're back in 2 weeks' time. My thanks to Steve. Good to have you in this evening. Thanks to Lizzie as well. See you in a fortnight from all of us. Good night.